The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives, at The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
So welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about mindset matters for busy mums and my story and why I think mindset and mindfulness really matter and why they make a difference. But I'm going to start by sharing with you the beginning of a poem. That way, okay, he wants me up. But sharing the beginning of a poem because I think it sums up a lot of my attitudes towards parenting before I embraced mindset and mindfulness. I was so busy doing that I wasn't actually appreciating and having much fun in my life. So this is a poem by Rose Milligan. Dust if you must, but wouldn't it be better to paint a picture or write a letter, to bake a cake or plant a seed, to ponder the difference between want and need? So how many of you are parents in this room? Show of hands. Okay, well done for getting here, because the struggle is real. Getting out of the house, doing something for yourself on a Saturday without anyone in tow. I don't know about you, but in my household, when I announce that I'm going out, and it's not necessarily for work, it might be something I'm doing for fun, there's all sorts of guilt lying behind the surface. You know, maybe we haven't got enough food in the fridge. What am I going to feed them? I don't know what washing needs to be done. All those things that are kind of there and that I worry about before I leave the house. So much pressure, so much guilt about doing things that I enjoy. And I know that before I kind of embraced this whole mindset world, that was a big issue for me. So mindset, work and mindfulness, aren't they just another pressure, another thing that you have to tick off the list to feel like you've been a good mum? Well, for me, frankly, it's not the case. For me, it's the thing that has absolutely transformed my life, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a moment. So I'm the founder of Inspiring Mummy Club, and I'm a life coach, mindfulness practitioner and meditation teacher. And I trained in NLP and hypnosis as well because they were things that had massively impacted my own life. And we've had quite a phenomenal year since we launched. Launched in April, and by Christmas we'd won a major award. And there were 4 other winners on the night, and the other winners were Adele, Rio Ferdinand, Holly Willoughby, and Penny Lancaster, Rod Stewart's wife. And it was all about the charity work that they're doing, using their celebrity to help inspire women and young girls to get out and make things happen. And our company, our business has really sort of captured the attention of the press. So it's been a great year for Inspiring Mummy Club. And so why do I run this? Well, frankly, I think there's so many mums who are burnt out, overwhelmed and stressed. And I think it's time to change that. My own journey has been quite a unique one. So 7 years ago, I was told that I would probably never walk again. And at that point, it was something that happened during my pregnancy. And at that point, I had a 4.5-year-old and I had a 19-month-old and then newborn on the way. And as you can imagine, my world kind of fell apart a little bit at that point. And I believed everything that this one particular doctor had told me. And I was very concerned that I would not be the mother that I wanted to be. I would not be the wife that I wanted to be. I wouldn't be the kind of busy involved parent that I wanted. And before I'd had children, I was a stage actor, and I'd always imagined, well, once I'd popped out the third, life would carry on, and I'd go back to being the creative, ambitious person that I'd been. And all of a sudden, that was kind of gone as far as I believed. And I decided that life had become so low, so depressing. All I talked about was how tough things had become, and that affected our marriage, that affected how I interacted with the children, because all I was seeing was dark times. And so I decided that I would go and see a hypnotherapist. And I kind of never had an idea that might heal me, but that it might help me in my head come to terms with all of the sort of negative patterns that I was experiencing. And that one day absolutely changed my life. So instead of focusing on all of the negative things, all the things that were terrible about my life, all the things I couldn't now do, all my beliefs about how to be a good mum, and how to be a creative person, noticing that they weren't necessarily true. And I walked out of that room where I'd not been in full-on trance as I'd expected. We'd just had a conversation. And he'd really pointed out a lot of my language, and he'd pointed out a lot of my belief systems that, that we're not even aware of. And within 3 weeks, I was back on my feet. Now, I wasn't fully recovered. Now, it took a little while longer, but I had gone from focusing on everything that was bad in my life, all the pain in my life, all the things I couldn't do and couldn't be in my life, to focusing on what was good, what was the potential for my situations. So I'll come back to my story a little bit in a moment.
For complementary resources from my book, my complementary e-course, The Power of the Question, or recommended reads, go to www.thequestion.com/resources. For more information on my coaching or mentoring, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
I want to tell you a little bit about a friend of mine, Kirsty, who I have known for many years in the playground. And Kirsty suffers with anxiety, and very much was able to put on a good show in the playground. She could chat, she could say hi, but behind closed doors, she was really struggling. She was finding it hard to really make good connections, finding it hard to invite mums, other mum friends back to the house. She was so worried about not being a good mum, not having the house clean, not having everything sparkling, not having absolutely everything ironed, that those negative thoughts would take up so much space in her head that it was overwhelming. And it got to a point where her husband said, look, you've got to go and see someone. You've got to get some medication, because that's what he knew could fix in his world. And Kirsty felt very strongly that wasn't necessarily what she wanted, but she went to the doctors anyway. And he encouraged her to try mindfulness. And I'm not going to tell you that everything in her life has improved. I'll come back to her a little bit more later. But what I am going to say is that was the start of her journey into recognizing that the things she believed about herself were not the only things that were going on in her head. There was some space between, and there was opportunity to change her thoughts. So back to my story. So here I am standing here. There's lots of experts and leading figures in mindfulness and mindset and all sorts of good life coaching stuff here today. And it's my belief that actually there's no experts, because everyone's figuring it out as we go along. Just some of us have got more tips to share. Now, one of the important things to me is that I'm standing here in a very nice pair of heels, having recovered. And had it not been for an understanding of the language that I used around my children, in my own head, to my husband, to my parents, about how tough I was finding life, had I not recognised that those things were holding me back, I wouldn't be here. I would still be feeling very stuck. I'd be unhappy. I would probably still be in a wheelchair, severely limited, because that was the world I was embracing at that time. As it is, I've gone on to have quite a unique career. I, at that time, couldn't see that I could be a stage actress, but that one conversation I had with this specialist in mindset showed me, well, what happens if I start to look for ways I could perform? How could I share the things I'm good at? When I became a mum, I deliberately stopped being an actor because I couldn't see how I could be the creative person I wanted to be and a good mum. I had some kind of ideas as to how you could be a good mum and what that looked like, and it meant that I couldn't really be me. But after that one conversation, I was looking for the opportunities. And along the way, I started to do voiceover work from home. And I kid you not, 5 years to the day that I was told I would never walk again, I was an award finalist in Hollywood, in LA, rocking down the red carpet in a pair of heels. It was quite an amazing journey to go from, literally not getting out of bed, not washing, not looking after myself, being very down, to, the highs of Hollywood and everything that came with that. And at the same time, being the kind of mum that I wanted to be. So, another bit of the poem. Dust if you must, but there's not much time. With rivers to swim and mountains to climb, with music to hear and books to read, with friends to cherish and a life to lead. So why is it that I think mindset matters, particularly for mums? Why is it important? So how many of you ever get stressed with the kids? Yeah, Me too. How many of you feel like life is a treadmill? You're kind of going from one meal to the next, clearing it up, thinking what's coming next. You've got the washing to do, and it's just going on a cycle. Does that resonate with anybody here? Yeah, some nods. Okay. So what would it be like if you had less pressure and less stress in your life? What would it look like? Is that even possible? Or is this whole mindset and mindfulness thing just another pressure? What would it be like if you actually slowed down in your life? What would be the difference? So I used to think that that wasn't even possible because I've got 3 kids and I've got so much to do and I've got a business and I've got a career and I'm married and the house is a mess and all of those things. But what I started to do was look for the things that made me tick. What were the things that I was passionate about? Did it really matter if the house hadn't been hoovered? If I had actually had an opportunity to go and do something fun for myself, if I'd actually had an opportunity to go and meet with a friend for myself without the children in tow, where you actually get to talk. So one of the things that I started to do was embrace mindfulness, and I started having a formal practice and an informal practice. And for those of you who don't know much about that world, it's about being in touch with how you're feeling, what's going on in your body, being a bit more in touch with your breath. And I'd really, ordinarily when I do this talk, at this point we do a meditation, but we don't have much time today. So what I've created is a free mindful meditation for you, which is online. So if any of you get out your phones, and if you go to inspiringmummyclub.com, and if you just pop your details in there, you'll get instant access to a 3-minute mindful breathing tool that you can use any time of the day. And the way that works in my life is that when I started using it, I would deliberately create 3 minutes that I would do each day. So before the school run, before they come out and they're tired, they're hungry, they're grumpy. I would do it before I woke them in the morning, just 3 minutes to myself, to ground myself, to do something for me. I would do it before we start bedtime, before we start bath time, just taking that time for myself, giving myself an opportunity to slow down. So you've probably seen on your chair that you've got a postcard and a pencil. So what I would like you to do now is to write out for yourself at least 3, but preferably 5 moments where you could take 1 minute or 3 minutes to do something like breathe for yourself, or just remember that you can be calm, that you have access to that wherever you are. So for example, I use the naughty step in my house. We don't quite call it that. But I use that as an opportunity when someone's, playing up and playing out, to just sit them down so that I can have a minute to myself. And I focus on my breathing, I focus on my breath, and it gives me the energy to come back into that conversation I'm then going to have with a better energy. Doesn't make me a perfect parent, but it makes me calm down, it makes me relax, makes me see that what's going on in that moment isn't the biggest deal.
For more information on collaborating, partnering, sponsoring, supporting, or speaking at any of our events, or finding out more about our legacy clubs, go to www.thebestyou.co. If you're interested in finding out more about the amazing content we have, please go to www.thebestyou.online and get your 14-day free trial now.
Another favourite in mine is my children like to come in the bathroom whenever I decide that I need to go. Or they're knocking at the door. And so I've built into, before they interrupt me, I will often take a minute then, just a minute to breathe, to steady myself, to remember the kind of person that I want to be, remember the things that are important to me. So when you've written down a few for yourself, what I want you to do with this piece of paper is take it home and pop it on your fridge, or pop it in your car on your dashboard, or by the kettle. Sometimes when you've made a cup of tea and you can sit down for a few minutes, that can, it's not just about having the tea, it's actually about that time for you, making it positive time. One of the things I would often do is scroll through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and come back to the children feeling much more frazzled than before I'd sat down to have my relaxing cup of tea. You're laughing, you get that. So where are these moments where you could start to look after yourself? And where are you going to put that postcard when you go home today? So I want to take you back to my friend Kirsty, who was at the doctor's and he was on the edge of prescribing some medication. Well, she knew that she wasn't ready to do that, and he encouraged that she go on a mindfulness course. And frankly, at that point, 1, organising the childcare, 2, leaving the house and being with other people. They were pretty much going to be, the way that she was going to get more stressed. So she followed a mindfulness course online, and she's found that she's much more able to interact with people. She's much more able to spot when those anxious moments are coming up for her. She's much more able to engage with her children. And one of the wonderful things that it's done for her is that she's realised that all those times where her kids would give her a cuddle, actually she wasn't there. She was away thinking about what else she hadn't done or what else she'd failed at. So through a mindfulness practice and being aware of her mindset and catching herself in those moments, noticing that she was saying negative things to herself, she starts to have a better relationship with herself, but also with those around her. Noticing now that when her children come for a cuddle, she can just cuddle them, because that's a nice thing to do. She doesn't have to be away on this journey of all the things she's not done. And that awareness of her mindset and mindfulness, she's actually gone on this whole other journey of looking after herself. And she actually now, through doing all of this work that we have in Inspiring Mummy Club, she remembered that actually there was a time when she wanted to be a writer. And it turned out she'd even written a book, but hadn't got the confidence or the courage because of all the negative self-talk that she had to do anything with it. And just last week, she got her first proof through, and that novel will be being published it goes live in May. And it's just about taking that time for yourself, remembering who you are, that you're not just the jobs you have to do, you're not just mum, you are a person. And actually, the more that you show your children that you are out living a life and doing things that are important to you, the more your children are going to model you. Because we tell our children that you can do anything you want. What do you want to be when you're 5? I want to be an astronaut. And we're like, yeah, that's brilliant. At what point do we lose that? And I know for my kids, them seeing that I was doing something that I cared about, that I was passionate about, that might be a little bit different. It might be creative. That particularly all of my children, but particularly my 2 girls, it has given them that kind of courage and power and belief that you can, as a mum, do anything because they see it happening. So for me, all of this work that I've done on mindset has completely transformed my life in a very physical way, but also what goes on up here. There was a time when there was no way I could have got on stage and spoken my own words. I was an actor and I could use a role and do that, but I could not have got up here. I didn't have the confidence or the self-belief. All those thoughts about I'm not good enough, I'm not talented enough, I've not got anything to say, I don't belong, people wouldn't listen to me, all those things, so many of the people I coach have them running through their head, and they don't have to be there. So what we do in Inspiring Mum, their limiting beliefs, notice their thoughts, start to take time out for themselves, and have a community of women who are also looking to making life happen and enjoying life. It might not be that you want to be an entrepreneur. It might not be that you want to go back to work. It might be that you're perfectly happy being at home. However, it's about letting you be perfectly happy at home. So what would it feel like to have less stress in your household? What would it be like to know that you've got the confidence to do the things that you're passionate about? For me, I know that I used to be really supportive when the kids were tiny, really supportive of my husband going out and doing whatever clubs he wanted to do, exercising, sport, activity. But for me to actually leave the house and do it felt like such a hurdle. I would see that if he were, I was at home a lot with the kids when they were tiny. And when Dad was home, I felt we should have family time. So he'd have his time, we'd have family time, but what was left for me? And for me, that ended up in a place that was really unhappy and me not being who I was. So how brilliant would it be for your children to model you looking after yourself and doing the things you're passionate about? And wouldn't it be good to have techniques at your fingertips that you can access whenever you want that are about dealing with stress and anxiety and having more calm in your life? Now, for me, by no means am I saying doing some mindfulness is going to make you the perfect calm mother and that you're not going to lose it a little bit when people take their shoes off as you're trying to leave the front door to go to school. What I'm saying is that through a continued practice, you can have a general wash of less stress and more calm in your life. And when those heated moments occur, you can spot them before you unleash your full ferocity, as I'm sure many of us have done on the kids in the past. So wouldn't it be nice to surround yourself with positive people, positive mums, positive women who are on the lookout for the good things in their day? We all know those people who we go into the playground with, picking up at nursery, or wherever you come across them, who focus on how bad life is. And I've been there myself. But the more your brain notices that you can be positive, the more it looks for ways to do that. So, in a nutshell, mindset matters enormously for busy mums. And I would just want to finish with Rose Milligan's poem, "Dust if you must, but the world's out there, with the sun in your eyes and the wind in your hair. A flutter of snow and a shower of rain. And this day, this moment will not come again." So it's all about just enjoying yourself, living for the moment, doing the things you're passionate about, even though you're a mum. Just, if not, it's the best reason to make it happen. And just while I'm finishing, just to let you know that anyone who signs up to my email list today, either now online or at my desk, we've got a competition to win 6 months free membership of Inspiring Mummy Club. And in the club, we provide life coaching packs, hypnosis audio that is literally transforming people's lives, especially for mums, that you can listen to boost your confidence and your self-esteem. And we have a full Mindfulness for Mums 8-week program in there as well. That's just fully accessible, along with the community we have of mums who all want to be on this journey of focusing on the positive stuff in their lives. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for coming. And come and say hi to me on the stand in a few moments.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.